Hello and very good morning, everyone. Welcome back to EPSILON 2026. I am Chandru Nada, Technical Ed at SS IEEE SS GST.
And I'm Rhythm Thakur, Joint Secretary at IEEE SSGST. We're excited to continue the fifth edition of our flagship event, Epsilon 2026, under the theme Dimensions of Discovery.
Yesterday, we have explored how modern cyber attacks unfold and how thinking like an attacker strengthens defense strategies. Today, we take the understanding a step forward under the CS track. Now we move on from theory to practical application with our hands-on workshop titled Hands-on Web Application Penetration Testing WAP Basics. This session is designed to establish a strong foundational understanding of web application vulnerability assessment and pen testing with, while demonstrating the complete web application testing lifecycle from reconnaissance and mapping to testing, exploitation, and structured reporting. Participants will gain practical exposure to how common vulnerability from the OSWAP Top 10 framework are identified, analyzed, and mitigated in real-world environment. Now let us begin our match awaiting workshop from welcoming our esteemed guest speaker.
For today's session, we have with us Mr. Stephen Odunze. Stephen is a seasoned cybersecurity analyst with over 12 years of IT experience, including several years focused specifically on cybersecurity. He has worked across telecommunications and higher education sectors, specializing in vulnerability management, incident response, and cloud security. He has supported security operations across AWS and Azure platforms in highly regulated environments and is known for his ability to clearly communicate complex security concepts while helping organizations reduce risk and innovate securely.
Welcome, sir. We are truly honored to have you with us today and are looking forward to this insightful workshop. In today's session, participants will experience a live demonstration of vulnerability discovery and exploitation using industry relevant lab environments such as OWASP Juice Shop, while also understanding the difference between the black box and white box testing approach. So, without further ado, we invite Mr. Stephen to begin the session and guide us through the fundamental of application penetration testing, along with deeper insight with practical cybersecurity implementation.
The stage is
All
all
right.
yours, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Odunze, like you rightly mentioned, and I'm very glad to be on this um, on this program. It's my pleasure to be invited for the program. And straightforward, I would like to start with uh, the objectives of this particular program. One, I would like to establish the fundamental understanding of the web application vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. While the name sounds like a whole lot in one, it's actually just two distinct things. One talking about vulnerability assessment and the other talking about penetration testing. There, and after that, we'll also like to make sure demonstrate end-to-end web application testing lifecycle. Then using few examples because we might not be able to exhaust the whole 10 OWASP top 10 uh, uh, penetration testing targets. Well, we can also talk about, I also like to analyze common web application vulnerabilities within that OWASP top 10 framework and breach offensive security techniques with defensive practices. I also provide a strategic career roadmap in application security because anyone joining the program wants to have an idea what is the essence of this to my career. Is there a career path in this area? Is it something I can go for? Because many people are always scared when they hear the name pen test. It looks like something that is almost impossible. But today I'm going to make it look as easy and as understandable as one can get it. And first of all, I'll introduce what the VAPT actually means and the application security context of it. And I'll also go about the penetration testing methodology and industry, a live demonstration using the OWASP Juice Box, which is a web application designed by OWASP themselves to help display how this attack carried out. And it's something I encourage anyone who is keen in going into that area to also apply in their own free time. They can download it on their virtual machine box and actually try it out. It's quite fun, and we'll get to see that. Then the defensive remediation and professional reporting practices, because in any uh, pen test that one has to carry out, it doesn't matter how good your pen test is. your result, and how you display it or explain it to who is concerned, whether it's an organization or an individual, matters a lot. Then I will now definitely go to that career path I mentioned. So, for web application penetration testing, like we mentioned, what is, if I were to be asked, what is that VAPT? First of all, I'd like to define three terms that are very critical. The first one is, what is a threat? Also, what is a vulnerability and what is a risk? These three terms you would hear me use again and again, and you need to understand what these terms are in order for you to be able to grasp what we are going to talk about. The first, which is the threat, is a threat is something that can cause harm or anything that can cause malicious impact or harm on someone or a system. Then the second, which I talked about, is vulnerability. Vulnerability is a weakness that could be exploited. If something is looking vulnerable or something is going to be, someone can access something based on the fact that that thing is not as good as it's supposed to be, that's a vulnerability. Then a risk, like I mentioned, is the likelihood and the impact. Because when you talk about an impact or a likelihood, it means that can this thing would is it possible that someone would want to actually try to break into this using this? That's part of the risk. And the impact, if it is used or someone finally breaks into a secured environment using that particular one that has a higher likelihood, what would be the impact of that threat? And the risk itself is the likelihood and impact of a threat exploiting a vulnerability. Remember, I explained what a vulnerability is and I explained what a threat is. So that's why I said a risk is the likelihood and impact of a threat exploiting a vulnerability, meaning that if something is said to be risky, there is a there is a high likelihood that when something actually affects it, the impact from it is due to it's being exploited by a vulnerability. Then for the VAPT, vulnerability assessment itself, in that word VAPT, identifies known vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, and weaknesses that automatically produce a list of potential risk with severity ratings. While penetration testing, on the other hand, because I mentioned two parts of it, the VA and the PT, the penetration testing actively attempts to exploit vulnerabilities to understand the real world impact. So if you're actively trying to exploit something, but this time around, when we talk of pen test, you are going to be legally doing it, not illegally. When something is legal, it means you've gotten the permission and the backing of whoever is permitting you to go ahead and test the system to see how vulnerable that system is. That is pen testing. When something is done without permission, is no longer pen testing. That is hacking. So we need to state that very clear from the beginning that pen testing has to be done legally. So now that's those two captures what VAPT actually is structured for, and therefore the VAPT is a structured risk-driven security evaluation process designed to identify, validate, and help remediate security weaknesses in systems. Used also in applications and infrastructure. Now, if you are going to be talking about VAPT, we need to understand how the mindset of how an attacker and a defender works. One thinks in a different way than the other, definitely the opposite of each other. For an attacker, his mindset is offensive, is opportunistic, is goal driven, and the focus is achieving objectives, not following rules. Remember, I mentioned that pen test has to be as in done according to as in has to be permitted to be done. That's where we do that means you follow rules while the attacker does not follow the rules. So a defender's mindset, someone who protects, is proactive, structured, risk focused, and operates differently. There is a real world modeling framework called Might Attack, which documents how adversaries operate across real environments. For example, if you have an information disclosure or a leak of an information due to maybe a weak authentication, maybe the password or something that is supposed to protect that particular device is weak, and someone gains access into that system and takes as in gains a privileged access, that means gains higher permission other than what they were given to when they access that system, they would definitely compromise that system. This is where the role of a pen tester comes in. His role is to see how he's going to act like the attacker and see where the cracks are. If you call an expert to come help fix things in your house, definitely the technician you have called would definitely take his time to find out what is wrong with the house, and he will test it to tell you, this I have checked, it would not be able to carry this amount of load or XY load. So, what are the legal and ethical boundaries? This is very important principle in pen testing. Authorization defines legality and intent defines ethics. So if we are going to make sure, if we are going to encourage anyone to go into the field of pen test, let that person have it at the back of their mind that without explicit authorization, penetration testing is legally classified as unauthorized access, regardless of intent. Like I mentioned earlier, if you try to do a pen test without proper authorization, it is considered an unauthorized access, regardless of your intent. So I don't know how many of us have actually had interest or used any form of penetration testing tool. I don't think much of us have. But in as much as that, it is up to us to see to it that if we want to learn, there are opportunities here and there that we can put our hands to learn. Most of these materials I would, at the end of this, explain to us how we can get across to them and be able to use them to personally learn one or two things. Now, if I were to talk about the the first part where I wanted to talk about how this all how the attacker from his own end tries to infiltrate the system, if that's with reconnaissance, where the particular attacker tries to gather information about the system he's going to attack. Because you don't go to attack something that you do not have a proper information about. It's like a robber who is going to rob a bank. He needs to have a proper understanding of the environment. What time does it open? What time does it close? Who are the security guards? Who is in charge? Who is at the counter? Who has the keys to the vaults? He takes information, names, location, time, and the quality of materials like the doors and every other thing to make sure that, okay, if something is vulnerable, they need to identify it. That is the essence of the recon. Is just trying to find out what is vulnerable in that particular bank that they're trying to rob. Now, after they have gathered those information, they have to map it out. That is where you use, like, I'll be using the scenario of the bank and also using the IT space. In an IT space, where we talk about like a website, you go and check what kind of is the website using WordPress or React app or JavaScript or even Node.js for the server side. Everything that is being done on that particular website, you will have to find out using different applications to scan and get informations, IP address, server, and the rest of it. Now, similar to the bankroll, the mapping is now the part I call the blueprint. This is where you try to map out everything that you have gathered to have a clear idea of what needs to be used. If you do not have a clear idea of what needs to be used, definitely you are not ready to actually break down the barriers that might stop you from getting what you are trying to get. or trying to understand how that thing works. Thirdly, we talk about testing. This is where you look for weaknesses and where you break into things just to, as in using those weaknesses that you have found out. Then there's a part called exploitation. This is the action part where you exploit those things that have been found out that are weak in the system. Even even if you're going to use the idea of a banking system, when you have found something that is maybe not strong, or let's say a door that has a faulty hinge, or has a very, very poor, weak lock. Definitely, it's easy to either you pick the lock, you break it, or you damage that hinge and gain your access. You wouldn't want to start looking for ways to call somebody to open it. No, the essence of you going in there is to go in stealth without anyone hearing or noticing it and getting the whatever you need, and out you will go. Then finally, if after everything is done and the attacker or whoever is doing that, or in this case, a pen tester is trying to break in to understand how it works, is going to make sure he or she reports that particular outcome properly without a clear guide on how this thing was discovered, how it is to be fixed, then there is no essence of starting the pen test in the first place. Now, I will just go over it, which I mentioned. I said the first phase will be to recon, that's to gather information, which is searching for the target. Secondly, mapping, crawling through the site, like it's a website, trying to check and gather all the informations, drawing the floor plan. That's mapping to draw out the whole plan. Then testing, which I mentioned, finding the flaws, because you need to know if these things you have mapped out, which of them is weak and which is the most vulnerable. That's where those terms we talk about vulnerability, threat, and risk. Now, the exploitation is the stage where you find you now activate
So,
those flaws. Yes, can you hear me?
are you changing the PPT? Because it's still in the
Oh,
first slide of
okay,
your
okay.
presentation.
I'm just talking about this one. Then after that, I'll go to this part. Then I'll now come to here because the I didn't put the I didn't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to make the PPT too large, so I just focused on the topics. So I'll move to the
Yeah, yeah,
next
no
one. So,
problem at all. I was just confirming in case, you can handle the
okay.
PPT from StreamYard itself.
All right. Okay. All right. No
Yeah,
problem. Okay.
please,
The
please carry
PPT.
on.
Okay. The PPT has not moved from your side. Okay. I can see it.
Yeah,
It's
now it
okay. You
has. Yeah,
uploaded.
now it has.
Okay. 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 Let me move it to the right place. Sorry. I was using my
Yeah,
screen that I was
thank you so
sharing.
much.
Yeah. I was using my screen that I was sharing. Okay. No problem. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah, got
for that update.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
So, all right. So, like I mentioned, I've just taken you guys through the web app pen testing flow. Now, I will have to explain uh, one or two terms concerning the methods or the methodologies used in pen test, because now you've understood some of the terms, you've understood how this uh, uh, the threat actors act and how a pen tester acts. You've seen their mindset, you've seen how this is being done stage by stage. Now you need to understand if this is going to be done professionally, that's in the industry, what terms or what methods are available. We have about three of them, but one or two is the black box and the white box more common. But we have the black box, white box, and the gray box. The white box is all about having all the details of the information you are going to be using in order to do that pen test. Like now, if one has the clear details of a company's website, like the application, the IP, the server, the types of every single information concerning that website, then you're not going to do in the pen test. You are doing a white box pen test because you have full information about everything that needs to be done or everything that needs to be tested. But there is another aspect called the black box. Here, you have zero information about what the platform you're going to be testing has. It's either a mobile application, it could be a web application, it could be a cloud server application, it could be even a server at the remote end that you want to do a pen test just to be sure that this thing is as safe as it can be. If there are any informations, you get that information and report it properly. Then the gray box, you are just giving basic information like a pen tester could be given just the user account and said and be told this is the IP of this server you're going to investigate. Here is a user account. You can try to break in. If you can, then use this username and password, log in, and see what else you can do. That's a gray box pen test because you've just been given basic information and nothing else. You've not been told about the application software, the server, and the IPs and all that. Now, when we talk of OWASP top 10, which is where I am going to now, is the most wanted list in the web vulnerabilities. These are vulnerabilities that have been discovered, that have been the most dangerous parts of any pen test that have been discovered over a certain period of time. And in this particular one, the last time it was updated was in 2021. These are standards that have been set. Just like I mentioned earlier about MITRE. MITRE is like a framework that is helping standardize how attackers attack systems. And every time there are engineers globally that contribute to ensuring and making sure that all the informations that they gather from these threat actors are fed into this database and it is made available globally. It helps companies, individuals, and organizations to see and identify how attackers work. We have for the OWASP top 10, I'll just be talking about the issue or the impact because I will still mention the top 10 in itself, but you need to just understand what are these top 10 all about. I have them in like 5 different bracket subheadings. I'll call them first one, the broken access control. This is a way that regular users find a way to access the admin panel. And imagine that a hotel guest is able to open every door in a hotel using just their own key. That means somebody has given rights or somebody has given them super user access to all the rooms in the hotel. Wouldn't that be a very serious security breach? Definitely. Nobody wants to have that kind of thing happen in a location where they find themselves. I can't even imagine myself lodging in a hotel and somebody who has access to it, and that person can come in at any time and take things from my room or plant anything he wants. That's a very powerful major risk, and no organization would want that to happen. Then we have another one what we call the cryptographic failure. This is a very sensitive place where information is being stored. Cryptography is just a way of uh, saving passwords in a ciphered form. But now you can see that this information, instead of being saved in a sensitive or in an encrypted form, is stored in plain text or using weak encryption because now they are based on the advancement in technology, quantum technology, and even AI. It is easy to crack some very simple passwords long before now, if you save some passwords using a certain encryption, it will take years or millions of years to break them. But right now, with the advance of technology, even the ones we think they're safe are gradually becoming unsafe. And if the hacker gets that data, then we know what happens. Then we talk about injection. Some of you might have had in the pentest, you've had the SQL injection and all that. There are other methods of injection that are also there. That's why I grouped all of them under five different categories, and this one of the third ones. It's a trick where a website running your command is telling it to give or green as allow it to carry out some commands from the input panel. Imagine you're trying to type in your username and password, and you can now run codes that would allow your browser or that particular application carry out a different function. That's a security risk, meaning someone can put up something that when it gets access to your system, if unfortunately it runs, instead of you typing in your own information, you will type in something else and then a different action will take place. Let me give us an example. I was able to, one time I had a problem logging into a particular website. And when I was finding difficult, they gave me a link, a hyperlink, and said, copy this command, paste it in your URL, and you should be able to view this website. Not knowing, and thankfully, I was using a virtual platform. So as soon as I copied that email, that text that was said to solve the problem and pasted it, it took, as in there was a kind of ransomware that took over that platform. All I needed to do was to delete it because it was in a virtual platform. And that is exactly what can happen when one is not careful. We have insecure design when security flaws are already encoded in the coding of the design of applications. Then there is a problem because when those designs are flawed from the onset, it's easy to bypass, no matter how well you try to put up maybe firewalls and other things. As long as that site is vulnerable, all it requires is for somebody to run the right codes, and it will definitely break that site. Then we have vulnerable components, just like plugins and other applications that you put into your websites and applications. As long as you do not have proper protection over your applications, then it is possible to have same problem. Then in real world, I'll give us an example, just one example. Imagine you have a portal and someone uh, can type in, can use that fake, all those words that I mentioned uh, uh, that it's, as in you have an application, maybe a website for your company. And the engineer who designed it made a poor code that could allow someone inject some commands into it to get an output. Definitely, like I mentioned the first part, it will be a terrible risk, and such would not be okay for those who are using that website. And if it's something that is generating money for you or your company, it will be a major loss for the company because someone might want to sue and say you have been giving them a site that's carrying malicious applications. So I'll just quickly mention the top 10 and we'll go straight to a lab to practice. So the first one is called the broken access control. It occurs when applications do not properly enforce restrictions. I hope that based on all the explanations I've given to us, what a threat, vulnerability, risk, how we've talked about the mindset of the attackers, both the of defender and the attacker. We've talked about black box, white box, and gray box. We've talked about these groups or categories of these OWASP top 10. So now the OWASP top 10 themselves, starting with the first one, is called broken access control. This is where an application does not properly enforce restriction on what authenticated users are allowed to do. This is where attackers exploit the flaws of this unauthorized data and perform privilege action. Privilege action, in the word privilege, means you are gaining a permission that is beyond the initial permission granted to that particular account user. If I should give an example, if you are working in the company and you are maybe a junior staff, there are folders or accounts in that company that you cannot access. Why? It's because of the level of clearance you have. You have a clearance to only access information at your level. If you become a senior person in that company. Now your privileges will be increased. You will have a higher privilege to be able to access more information. Same also if you go to become an executive in that company, then you would have almost practically full access to certain information, because maybe some areas are not your expertise, but the area you're in expertise, you have full access. So that is what we call privileged escalation. Now, the second one is called cryptography failure. Is previously it was called sensitive data exposure. It's a category that focuses on the root cause, failing to protect data in transit or at rest. Meaning when data is being transmitted, it can be intercepted. And when it's intercepted, some things can be fed into it and sent on to complete its errand. And unfortunately, that's where we have issues. Or even saved, you're trying to save something. Somebody imputes something and includes a weak algorithm or improper key management, then you might have a problem. We also have the injection where I mentioned SQL injection. It occurs, you can have no SQL because these days it's not only SQL. SQL means structured query language, while no SQL means non-structured query language. What do we mean by structured query languages? If you check any information you're saving on your database, it's either a letter, alphabet, or a number. But when you talk of no SQL, you're talking of things like images, pictures, videos. How do you now save them? If I were to save or impute any data on my Excel sheet, I'll have a value for it. I could call it a name or something. But in this case, I now have a word, a picture, an image, or a video. How do I mean the picture, image, or video? How do you now, would you can't twist the image and say it is called this. No, you have to name that video a certain thing. So in order to save that image attached to its description, you use what we call non-SQL, non-structured query languages. So that's why we now use the word injection, because we could have NSQL, SQL, and so on, or even operating system commands. So in 2021, this particular uh, uh, top 10 vulnerability was called cross-site scripting. That's the word X for xylophone, and SS. That was consolidated into this category. The next one is the insecure design, a new category for 2021 that focuses on risk-related design and architectural flaws. Then the fifth one is called the security misconfiguration. This is a result of insecure default settings or incomplete configuration. If someone is carrying out security configurations for a certain, maybe a database that hosts a website, if it is not properly configured, there's every possibility that uh, errors or excessive errors or messages can reveal system details. And we even want, happily, there's one of the displays I will carry out that will show us something of this secured misconfiguration. Then we'll talk about vulnerable. The sixth one is called vulnerable and outdated components. This is risk arising from using libraries or frameworks and other software modules that are no longer maintained. And we can definitely tell in our own personal lives and examples where we've used phones or applications that are outdated and they keep wanting update and update. And somebody just keeps clicking later, later, or you're denying the update. A time will come when there is a vulnerability that would affect a particular version. And if you have not upgraded, you can always fall into this. So this is a very clear example of what we can experience ourselves. Then the seventh one is called identification authentication failure. From the word identification and authentication, it's all about having proper authentication. So when there's a broken authentication, this is a vulnerability or in session management or user identity verification. Examples include weak passwords requirements or lack multi-factor authentication. We're going to see example of that, where something it doesn't have a strong password authentication and it can easily be broken. Then we have the software and data integrity failure. when the software updates without verifying the integrity, it's going to become a very insecure application. If someone can easily inject a new application and it updates without even going through any form of checks, then we have a problem. An attacker can manipulate that. He sees that this application is being done without any form of checks. Then there's a loophole there. Security login and monitoring failure is another one, which is the ninth, and is the ninth of the top 10. And of course, when the critical security events are not logged or monitored. Then the 10th one is the server side request forgery. I don't know if most of us have heard about it. It is a flaw that allows attackers to trick the server side, that's the application end, into making requests to an unintended location, such as the internal service behind the self firewall. So I would take us through the this. Let me just show us the top 10, which I just described. As we can see, okay, the top 10. Sorry. Okay, these are the top 10 I mentioned: the broken access control, cryptography failure, injection, insecure design, security misconfiguration, vulnerability and outdated components, identification and authentication failures, software and data integrity failures, security login and monitoring failures, and server-side, uh, server-side request forgery. So now I'll be sharing my screen. Uh, am I good to share my screen now? Hello? Okay. Hello? Hello? Can anyone hear me? Hello? 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 Can anyone hear me? Okay. I need to be sure we can see me. Hello? If anyone can hear me, you just let me know so that I'll be sure I'm still communicating.
Yes, your still that main presentation slide is visible,
Yeah.
not the
Okay.
Kali Linux virtual machine is.
Wow. Okay. How do I? Okay. I can remove this one from stage, right? As in this one I have now.
Yeah,
Okay. If I
yeah.
remove it from stage, how do I pop the next one to stage? Okay.
You'll be able to present
Okay.
your whole screen in the first place. Like you can try sharing your whole screen.
Okay. I've done that again and still not. I don't know if you can see my screen yet.
Just
Can
a
you see my
second.
screen? Okay. I'm going to the present entire screen. Share.
Can you
It
just
has.
try sharing it again?
Okay. Let me stop sharing. And I think I don't know if I should remove the slides. Let me remove from studio. Should I remove the slide from the studio and share? Okay, I've removed it. Then let me try and share screen
Yeah,
again.
you can try removing slides and just show the.
Okay. So I've done that. Yes. Okay, you can see my screen now, right? I can see my screen
Just a
showing up
second.
there.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right.
Now it's visible.
All right. Thank you. So now I will go to this basically to achieve this lab we're going to be using. All anyone would need is a virtual machine, install Kali Linux, maybe the latest one. This one I installed was for 2025. And after installing the Kali Linux, you go to, because Kali Linux comes with Mozilla, comes with Bob Suite. And if we look, if you remember, I mentioned the MITRE attack. MITRE attack is a framework that is used to monitor how threat actors act globally. They've been gathering information for years. And if we look at this particular Kali Linux, is a pen testing OS, operating system. Why they call it pen testing OS? Because it has everything you need to carry out a pen test, from reconnaissance down to this thing, down to command and control, exfiltration, and impact. Then this one for forensics and service and other tools, they are different. But from your reconnaissance down to impact, you can see everything you require or need in carrying out a proper pen test. Then if we come here, I have my Bob suite. A Bob suite is used to intercept. Recall I mentioned that we have a platform, as in attackers can use different platforms to intercept information so that they can manipulate it and let that information go. In while the user of that information thinks they have sent the right information, along the line they will not know someone has intercepted and started making false use of that particular platform. Now that's what I call the Bob suite. So we'll have, and this is, I'm using the community edition because it's the free version. There is a professional version which is paid for, but this one for today is going to be able to do what we want. So I have just started my the Bob suite. Well, first of all, for me to open this the juice shop, I just ran a command called, as in, I first of all installed, I did a sudo apt update to make sure I updated my Kali Linux system to make sure all the softwares and applications were up to date. Then I did a sudo apt install juice shop. This juice shop is a well-known web application by OWASP themselves. You remember we talked about the OWASP top 10. Now we need a platform, or they are actually able to give us a platform that we can actually test out what they have been talking about, or where they have mentioned that these things are vulnerable. And this is a vulnerable website. So it's not like the website itself is highly secure. No, they've made it purposefully vulnerable so that when you try out some of the things that we see in real life, we'll get to appreciate it. So when you have installed that juice shop, you will just use the command sudo juice dash h, which launches the website. And when I ran it, I was able to launch this website. Now, in order for me to make sure that any information I have here is being intercepted on the Bob Suite end, because this is open in Mozilla, sometimes I might not be able to get, it's been known to have, as in, yes, you can do settings in your current website where you go to settings and you can go to the cache proxy. You can go to the proxy, go to the settings and use the manual and go to the manual proxy. Type in the 127.0.0.1, which is your loop. It's like when you want to do a loop test to see if your system interface is functional. You can use that 127.0.0.1. If you do a ping on it, it will return successful because you are pinging your own computer interface. So now it's going to be like a gateway. for any traffic leaving this web application to go through it. So, but in this case, we're not going to use this one. We're rather going to use BuffSuite itself. It has a browser. So when I click open this browser, you would see I have a web browser. So, okay, I need to clear this. Just a minute. Gosh, because I'm trying to, okay. Yeah, okay, last 24 hours, delete from device, because it's holding memory of so many information. Okay, okay. Let's see. No. Sorry. Let me just quickly close this and see if I can get. All right. I'll need to delete this. Cache. So that's whatever I've done on the other side. It will not be available anymore. Now it's 0 bytes. Okay. I've cleared the memory. And okay, let's see. Okay, something is up. So let me close this and close this. Sorry, everyone. I'm trying to just restart my Juice shop because it's showing that there's some tasks I've already done. So I'll restart. So once I've done that restart, I can check the status of my. Okay, shows that it's active and running, and I can now start my Juice shop. So it's loading. Here we are. Good, perfect. So there's nothing we have started here. So now I'm going to copy this and go to my BuffSuite. The BuffSuite I want to use the BuffSuite browser because this particular browser would not, it might not be intercepting it. So I want BuffSuite because BuffSuite has a browser pre-configured to intercept any traffic that is going through it. So now you can see we are starting afresh. And when we open a browser, which is the Chromium, okay, let me clear this. Make sure we are cleared. Cache. Okay. So now, let's be sure. All right. So now we can see that we are live on our Juice Shop platform, where we are going to practice some of the WAP's top 10 uh, vulnerabilities. Now, the first one we're going to do for us to be able to carry out any of this attacks, there's going to be what they call, it's more like they made it more like a game. So, or where you try to find out something. When you do it correctly, you get a point, and it's ticked for you that you have done it. So I'll work on some of it, which because of time, we will not be able to cover everything. We've almost spent an hour, so we have few more minutes to complete this. So in order to do this, first of all, as someone who is looking forward to being a pen tester, there are some basic knowledge and skills we'll require. One is the knowledge of virtual platforms, cloud platforms. In the cloud platforms, it's actually a virtual platform. The only thing is that one is being accessed over the internet while the other one is accessed physically. My virtual platform is more like a cloud platform. If you go to your Azure, AWS, or even GCP, Google, they are hosting everything that they are providing to you on a physical server. The only problem is, oh, you are getting all the services over the internet. So you need to have an idea of virtualized platforms. Means virtualized means you can actually have what you have physically in a virtual platform. Your PC, this currently is an OS on a computer. And if you go check the whole information about this site, you would see that it has all the features of a computer, a hardware, processor, memory, USB. So, but in this case, we are going to be using this virtual PC to run this program. This is a website in my virtual platform. And for me, they said that the first thing is to get that I can see the scoreboard where I would be able to monitor all the tasks I've taken. So there are some other skills called dev tools. These dev tools are tools that developers use to know how to navigate, monitor, modify, or carry out any configurations or actions on a web application. That's the same way they are able to tell how a website, when developed, will look like on a website or on a mobile device. And I will be showing us that. So we're not only learning pen test, we're learning dev tools. Let me go back and explain this again. If you come to the screen, you can right click on your screen and you click on inspect, or you can even use F12 key on the laptop. If I press my F12, you can see it has brought out my distinct dev tool. I can come here, right click, and I click on inspect. And when I click on inspect, it brings out my dev tool. Same also, you can go through settings to achieve that. But right now, we have gotten to that platform. So what I'm looking for is my scoreboard. It's called a scoreboard. When you go to the website when you want to download this, they'll tell you make sure you go to the scoreboard, but they expect you to find that information. They believe that the information is hidden on the site. That's why when informations are being set on the configuration file of a website, it's best to make sure they are obscured or used in a different way. Because if you have plain text information, anybody who is very good at hacking a site would definitely do that. And the first thing I'll do now will be the first hack, which is I'll go to the source file, and this source file, I'll go to my main.js file, which is a JavaScript file. And what I'm looking for is that source board. Scoreboard. Scoreboard is what I was told in this document before this OWASP shop was downloaded that they need to have. That's where all my information will be. So I'll do a search. Let me do a search and score dashboard. Can see, okay, I have several names showing here. So let me start because I want to make sure I get something that tells me where I can locate the scoreboard. So if I use this arrow key, I'm not seeing anything so far from what I'm reading here. All I'm reading here are just information. Well, I'm looking for something that will tell me this scoreboard is maybe a path or what they call a router where there's a route where you can access this information. So I'm looking for two keywords, either a path or a route, a router. So I'm not seeing any yet, but I'll keep searching because I have about 27 of them, 15 of 27 showing on my screen. I don't know if my screen is eligible enough. Okay, let me increase it. Good. So now, well, if I increase it, it might take us a while to search through, but no problem. So we can see as I'm increasing it, as I'm going down, I'm searching, searching, and hopefully, let me see, where's this one? Oh, it's telling me I can use a path. So how do you search for something with the paths? If you want to search something with the path on the URL, all you need to do is you go at the end of that particular URL and put your path. And as you can see, I've been told congratulations. I can see that there is a path. Some other, like this particular application, it's not going to be the same when you want to log in and check. They want to make sure you are thinking while you are doing it. So you might log in and the next thing you see is that router path. So you might see they'll say, okay, router, that router still means you can use a link, meaning it's just a folder after or a folder in the website. So if it's going to be a location on the website, just use a slash. That is going to take you to that directory and you are able to log into that site. So now we have logged into this site. We can now go check our dashboard. Okay, this is our scoreboard and this is it. So this is our scoreboard. It's telling us we solved one hacking challenge. And that's our first step in using the existing tool on our website to get information from that site. So you can see how easy it is for attackers to use an existing website to get information. And it's quite risky if if that can be done on a site, what else cannot be done? So one has to be very careful in how or what they put on there as in the sites as the guys who are doing the configuration for that site. One has to be careful to know what they are actually doing there. Then we have the another challenge where it has to do with imputing information. Here, I can, there is a, okay, sorry, let me click on this. Okay, yeah. Uh, so this is said, you can use this to start an interactive challenge to help you understand how this is a DOM-based cross-site scripting where information, the only difference between the DOM-based cross-site scripting and other cross-site scripting, because there are about three of them. There is there are about three of them. Let me just see if I can pull it up. Those three are the types of uh, um, they are the types of cross-site scripting that are used by attackers. Two of it has to do with the attack from the server side of that particular attack, while one has to do with the user interface, which is this current platform where I am. This platform where I am is called the user interface. If you go into the server, like now here, this is actually a server. That's why you can see it's active and running. So this particular application, this juice shop that I ran, is actually on a server. And that server, as you can see, is actively running. That's why I have it here, as you can see on this place. So if someone has an attack that can go affect the database or the place where it's running from, or the server that is hosting this website, that's called the server side. While from my end, it's called this thing, the user interface end. So in this particular one, all I need to do is to copy. In fact, you can click this key here. It will tell you for this challenge. Let's just see. I have to draw it back. Okay, it says for this challenge, you have to start by searching all products containing OWASP in their name or description. So here, you can see it's saying that we should take this iframe. There's a code here given to us. Iframe is just like when we talk of headers. When we talk of header and the frame, they are cool. They are languages used by web developers to identify certain aspects of a website when you're developing one. So here it's saying that if you go here, put in your search. If you go put this information, You are telling it that if I feed this information into an input box, remember that I mentioned there are several types of attacks where someone can impute a value or an information and it will automatically pop up and create a problem. In this case, we are using this one. And when we run this command, we can see it has automatically taken the information that we have and it's giving us a screen. So it's like an iframe is like a frame inside your image or inside your own frame. So you are creating another frame inside that frame. That's why we use the iframe, the command there. Let me see, iframe source equal to JavaScript. So when I now type that particular iframe, it allowed me to display this information inside here, XXS. That's why you saw that when I ran that command, you can see it created a search box. That's the function of that command that I had put in. And that JavaScript alert came up and it was successful. So if I build a website, instead of people being able to search, if they run this command and they can execute this, it means they can do something more malicious. It's supposed to reject any input that I put here other than what it is meant to search. If I'm supposed to search maybe the scoreboard, just like we're looking for, and it says, unfortunately, no scoreboard, then it's okay. But for it to now go and execute a separate command, it means this site is definitely vulnerable. That's a wrap for another one. So let us see. We have been able to successfully identify two flaws in this website using two different major flaws that can be seen on the website. Why am I doing this? So that we can see how easy it is for hackers to definitely infiltrate a web application or an application that has not been properly designed or has any form of flaw. Remember what we talked about vulnerability. We mentioned threat and we mentioned risk. So vulnerability is a weakness that if someone knows, like if someone wants to harm you and they know your flaws, they will definitely use that flaw to harm you. Same way with attackers. If they want to harm or create any havoc, they will look for a flaw. And this is one of the flaws in this particular website. So let's see. Let's remove this and oh, no. Okay, good. So now we're back in our dashboard. Now, we've been able to successfully identify two major attacks that can be done. Our time is 5:38, so we have a few more minutes. Let's see how many more we can do. Then if we have some questions, we can quickly run through them. So this one too also shows the idea of a bad payload. We can quickly try this one out, or even let us use simple. Let me use my name now, or anybody's name. I can put a header, H, close it, and put my name, Steven, Steven Life. If I put it, okay, Steven is live, then I now close it, close the header using a command like this, and I run it. Oh, no. It's not supposed to. I didn't. Why is it not coming up properly? Okay. Okay, yeah. It's still, you see, it came out and it gave me my name. Normally, this thing is not supposed to give me just my name because it's supposed to say it can't find it. Let us see if we do that on a normal day. Wait, let me remove this. I'll go back to our scoreboard and just search for. Let's just search for Steven. This just to show us that. You can see, oh no, no, not this one. Sorry, let me use the let's use this other payload that they've given us because it's a way of they are trying to use this particular command here to search the internet and get uh, a soundtrack because I can read the iframe here, which means another window, like I mentioned earlier when I said iframe, said it's like a frame inside another frame. And from here, I can see that once we copy this and paste it, if we if I run this, it definitely should give us an output of a song that is being heard or like here now, because if I expand it, you will not be able to see it. Now I wanted to just show you it's an API for a SoundCloud. So let's run that particular. You can see. Ah, definitely has downloaded a song. So that is another flaw for this website. It not only shows that we can impute information that we want to see, it can also create a subframe. And not only create a subframe in this case, but also connect to the internet. So you are making just this website that looks like a simple search button to go carry out a function of creating a subframe or another web page, and also not only creating a web page, connecting to the internet to download a song, which is very risky. If someone wants to send a malicious information to you just for you to download a malware, they don't need to send the malware over the email to you. All they need you to do is to tell you, if this site is not open, please just copy this link, paste it in this place, and you will see the link open. Not knowing that that link you copied is going to download the malware over the internet to your system. We can now see how dangerous it is for a search button, input button, anything that has to do with a post. Because in your web development, you have your get and post. Get is you're trying to retrieve information. Post, you're trying to request for info. So you input a value. That's your post, and you get your response. So this is another clear example of how one can not just only create subframes, but also being able to download if they want to download a malicious information. If that song that I downloaded now was a malicious file, it would have taken over the screen, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'll either have to give up this whole system or pay. They might even seize my system and say I have to pay Bitcoin. But that is just an example. So it's a way to encourage us to see the beauty of learning this pen test, because you would see real world examples of how they are used. Then there's this one, this privacy policy. So I think I'll just go through this. He said, Mr. Nino said, okay, they are going to give us steps on how to achieve this. They say log in with any user to begin this challenge. You can use an existing freshly registered account. So, okay, to do this, I can go set up an account. Let's close this. We go here, log in. So if we're going to log in, let us say they said you can use an existing or freshly registered account. So I'm a new user. I don't have an account. So I'll come here. Let me use Steve1 at my.com, because I don't have this is just a fictitious email. Then if we want a password, we can say PASSWRD password. We go to next and we create a password. Note, I can use 8 of 28 of what that means that I can use from this thing. Already I'm seeing a fault in the design of this web application. one of the password has up to 20 max characters, and the second has of 40 max characters, meaning somebody had repeated something here. They had doubled it, which is a problem. So meaning if I can go here 20, I can go for the second part more than 20, which is a flaw. And we'll get to see that. Because if I want to confirm if it's true, if I change one of it, whether it will to show me whether it will work or not. Then the I remember password, media name, I can just put it Kelly. Okay, now to register, I can say here, I can put password one. You can see it didn't stop me. But if here, if I come and change this and I go like this, no, not you see, it is saying no, this email address is not valid. So I need to put a complete this thing to put an email. But when it comes to the password, it never gave me any error. 9 of 20 and 8 of 40. And if I register, so it says, do you want to, so this one password, no thanks. So now it said log in with any user. So I have to log in. Steve one. Yeah, I think I used Steve one, right? Steve one. Mm, Steve one at my.com. Password and login. Oh, did I use invalid email? Okay, let's try. Let's create another one. Not yet. We used the wrong one, so just use yeah, Steve one at my.com. Yeah. So what happened? Okay, let me let me do it again and see. Cow. Email must be has already been used, so let's use two. And okay, so Steve two. So now we have logged in. So great, you are logged in. Now open the account menu. So go here, security submenu, open the privacy and security, and click policy privacy. So this is how it's showing us that we have been able to solve a policy privacy. We've been able to get the policy privacy of the company, which is not supposed to be under it's supposed to be something that was a bit hidden, but we were able to easily log in. And some of this might be like a bonus track for us to continue going ahead. Then we'll now try another one. Yeah, you remember I mentioned something about a chatbot that is that we can bully. I think that one is going. I will be able to do that from my. What's that? Okay, okay. So chatbot is support chat. I can come. I'll tell it. I need a coupon from the message they put there, so I can copy it. Why I'm copying it because I want to be imputing it several times. Let me just increase the screen. Okay, so this is coupon. So I put coupon and said, nice to meet you. Put coupon again. Put coupon again. I will just keep asking it for this coupon and it will keep giving me, sorry, no. But if I am persistent enough, it will now answer me because I was uh, I was able to keep giving it same information. This actually happens in the real world, where as in people use bamboo. That's the bamboos the site with so many requests that it overwhelms it and gives up some information that's not supposed to, which is not supposed to be the case. And that is another case of a site that is not properly configured. Now, when we talk, this other one talks about a confidential uh, document. Let's see. There are some documents here that are confidential. Let's see how we're going to be able to. So we are going to look for a hint here. The first hint says analyze and tamper with links in the application that deliver a file directly. Click to unlock hint 2. Yeah, it says analyze the tamper with links in the application that deliver a file directly. File they're looking for is not protected in any way. Once you found it, you also access it. So to get to all those files, hello, I don't know if we still have time. Let me just talk to the presenters. Hello, can anyone hear me? This is Stephen. I just want to confirm if we've got time. Hello, hello. Okay, can you hear me? All right. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
You have like 5 more minutes if you want to continue,
Oh,
or else we can conclude as well.
okay. All right. So what I'll do is now at least we've done some of these basic um, VAPT vulnerability assessment and pen testing, giving them the opportunity to understand or see for themselves real world examples of like cross-site scripting, SQL injection, and some other like the DOM-based script scripting and so many other ones. But I would want to review, as in, I want to talk on few of the informations that we've got left on that document now, so that they don't. So now, when we talk about, so I want to discuss on some of the remediation uh, solutions because it's okay to talk about uh, systems that fail, but do we talk about how we can resolve them? Those are key informations we need to know. And in the cybersecurity space, it's important to know that for each of these methods of OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, on the site itself for OWASP top 10, there are clear steps to mitigate each and every one of these issues. Let me just go through some of them and also advice on one or two informations that we might need. Now, uh, I mentioned also that reports are very key. We have a limited time, but I will just try to talk about the reporting. When we have a report that requires, when we carry out a pen test on our end as the pen testers or security engineers, we have to make sure we properly structure our reports so that whoever the business owner, whoever is having that report would have a clear understanding of what that report says about the pen test that was done. That's what we call an executive summary. This is supposed to be non-technical. For any organization that has a pen test carried out, they need to have a clear picture of what you intend to do, how you're going to carry it out, what you are going to achieve, that's the objectives, and also the result of that particular pen test. The pen test result should clearly state what was done and how it does not breach the information on that network. It must have proper permissions giving you rights to go ahead. It's going to define whether it's going to be a black box, a white box, or a gray box pen test. Then you will now have your technical details. After you've given that executive summary, normally that one goes to the board. But we have the IT engineers who manage that company. We have the technical guys who manage the company. There you will prepare the technical details of your report that shows step by step what tools were used, what types of tests were done, because you know you'll be given a scope. That scope tells you what you are permitted to do and what you are not permitted to do. So if you have what you are permitted to do, you can only go within that scope of your task. And when you're done, you will have to now provide the risk concerning those threats or vulnerabilities that were discovered. And this is what we call the CVSS score that is used to to rate each of the vulnerabilities identified. Then we now have what we call the proof of concept. This proof of concept is similar to what we just did here now. Something that shows that, okay, if this is done, this will be the effect. We have shown with proof of concept how cross-site scripting can be occur, how SQL injection can occur, how information that is supposed to be private on a website or web application is evident. Then we now have what we call the remediation steps. All these are very critical when you are doing a report delivery. The remediation steps would clearly tell, does that particular application require a configuration change? Does it require a code change? Does it require an update or patch on an API? It could be an API on the application that is causing that problem. Does it require updating that API or patching it or completely upgrading it? When we talk of patching and upgrading, patching is more like you are just the same version of an application. You are just making some few changes. When you talk of complete upgrade, you are upgrading it from one version completely to another version. If you can, if an exploit, if a threat actor can exploit any of this thing that has been found, and it was not properly captured in your pen test, it could also result to a major problem. That's why you have to make sure your test is thorough and detailed, and you must explain why you say a particular threat is what it is and how you can resolve it. Also note that you can never give a complete promise that a system will be free of vulnerability. You are only finding what is most vulnerable, not all the vulnerabilities. You can never say you have gotten all the vulnerabilities. No, applications change. Even the ones you have confirmed that they are okay, tomorrow they can become outdated. So it's very risky to tell anyone or anybody that completely your system is free. I've done all the checks, I've done all the vulnerability scans, there's nothing wrong. No, that's why as a pen tester, you will definitely be relevant for thousands of years to come, because any application that comes out would also find its vulnerability match in just a matter of time. Now, I want to talk about the skill roadmap for students who want to become pen testers. There are foundational and other advanced areas that one can start with. Remember, when we started this pen test, we saw the a web application, some of it basic HTML codes, CSS codes, JavaScript. These are some of the basic things we came across here. And there's no how we are going to deal with any application or website that will not come across some of these basic languages. And we need to be able to explain or identify them, especially like when we're doing, there's one I would love to do an intercept with the Bob suite where I would intercept the information like the one I did for that username and password. I can even intercept it on the Bob suite and I'll change the value there. But I just decided to do that on the platform so that we can see it in action. Then you need to have a knowledge of Linux. And Linux, you see some of the commands I ran on this platform. I don't know if we can still see my screen. Yeah, if we check some of the commands I ran here on this platform, some of it are Linux commands, like this command now, the sudo gshop. It's a Linux command. These are basic commands that we all ought to have and know so that we'll be able to get used to this. Then we'll also talk about the use of tools like the Bob suite I mentioned, web manipulation. Then we'll now, if we are now going advanced, that's when we'll now be talking of API testing, IDOR, SSFR, and different modes and methods of pen test, which I did not cover here because you just wanted us to have an intro and an understanding of what this is all about. Then, if you go to professional level or very advanced level, that's when you have to now deal with reporting, communication, threat modeling, cloud security. Those are the advanced level of all this. When one starts with this, definitely you can see it's not like rocket science. Many people are always like, where do I start? How do I go about this? And that's why we had to bring this particular example to show you that it is not all rocket science. It's once you are willing to understand, learn, and use it for the right reasons, you will be able to become a pen tester. There is also aspects of pen testing. There is the corporate pen testing and there's bug bounty. Bug bounty is you go as a companies will bring the applications and say, test this application. If you find any vulnerability, we'll pay you a certain amount. And you can that job is done independently because a company will not bring out their website and say be testing it for life. It can be a job for you to be testing their own application every day. They have their internal pen testers, but they want external people who have eyes for things they have not seen to actually capture those things and they will rectify it. And those kind of things come once in a while. So it's more, normally it's not a permanent job. It's just a job you can be doing on the side. Then the corporate pen testing is what you do for you. You can even do it as a business for companies, or you work for a company as a pen tester. These are great skills that one can definitely get. Then certifications. It's for me certifications. I always tell people learn with the free tools you have first before going to the major certifications. There are so many of them. You have junior level certifications and higher level certifications. The junior ones like the PMPT, EJPT, or even Executive Test Plus. Then you now have the advanced ones like OSCP and the rest. But it's good you start with. There are some free ones you can actually get without paying any money. It gives you the hands-on. Like this one I did now, something you can go there. You can use YouTube. There are some great channels you can listen to. Like you can use Try Hack Me and some other popular uh, platforms like is it there's this guy. I'll try and see if I can get some of his information, and I'll definitely have to pass that across to the team so that they can display on your website, like the Try Hack Me, Potswigger, Free Code Camp, Hackersploit, and so many others. They are platforms. Some of them, some applications, some tests for on them are free, some are paid for. So, but if you can afford to pay for some of it, which is not so expensive, you can go ahead. It's something to learn. And once starting with the free, your hands get stronger, you get the opportunity to even do more. And I don't think there's any much more I can do for now, but I hope this has really intrigued your interest in the world of pen testing. And thank you very much. No. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you so much.
Sorry for taking beyond the time.
No problem at all, sir. It was very engaging and insightful. And I would like to thank you for walking us through the complete web application penetration testing flow from reconnaissance and vulnerability discovery to exploitation and professional reporting practices. Your live demonstration and explanation of real-world vulnerabilities within OWASP Top 10 framework gave us a practical understanding of how security professionals approach application defense.
We will now begin with a quick Q&A session. If you have any questions or doubts regarding today's workshop, whether about WAPT methodology, remediation strategies, certifications, or other career pathworks, please free to post them in the chat box. Mhm. Uh,
Okay. I can see one of the
Yes.
questions. Yeah, one of the questions says, can you suggest structured resources to build a strong foundation in cybersecurity? Wow, thank you very much. Can I go ahead to answer the question?
Yes, sir. You can go ahead.
All right. Okay. In cybersecurity, because thanks for asking that question. Cybersecurity in itself, it's an offshoot of your IT knowledge. Everyone that wants to go into cybersecurity must not be a pen tester. So when people hear of cybersecurity, sometimes they are scared that it has to do with pen tests, and as such, it's not cut out for me. No. Once you have the basic IT knowledge, because it's the foundation, you cannot protect what you do not know. Cybersecurity used to be called information technology before it was now changed to cybersecurity because they felt it was not giving it enough. It didn't give it. It was not. It wasn't giving it that name they wanted to call the security issue in the information sector. So information systems, like any system at all that carries information, it's an information system. Whether it's a tablet, a phone, a device, whether it's an IoT, whatever it is, it's an information device. And as such, when we talk of trying to get materials that will help in the foundations, I would always tell anyone that has opportunity to start with the basic core areas like Linux, your cloud, just having the basic understanding and knowledge of cloud. There are free cloud courses you can do that you don't need any money. There are free Linux programs. You can learn Linux from many places. Just type it on Google. Free Linux courses, you would see it. Also, there are programs that go on to teach people DevOps. In DevOps, you learn about your basic HTML, CSS codes, like I mentioned here. These are still key. In as much as it's sounding like it's looking like pen test, no. In cybersecurity, you need the knowledge of all this information. When you have built the foundation, it's including networking. Networking is another very key area. Once you have built that foundation for your networking, your Linux, your basic programming language, you don't need to be an advanced learner in that. You don't need to design any website. All you need to just know is, what does this function do? What's my header? What does that header do? What does the frame? What does it mean? If they have 200, okay, some of the outputs we get from a website, when you log in, you see 400 unreachable or 500 error. Some of those basic things, once you know those basic things, when you get to see them in interviews and questions, you will get to understand them. So when you have built the foundation, that is when you now start looking for courses or programs that can help you, like the Google cybersecurity training. I think that one is done by, yeah, I think it's Google that does that, but Coursera also hosts it also. So I don't know if it's free now because I know then you have to apply and get it to do it. We have free certifications like ISC squared. Those are foundational courses that once you do, they give you an holistic view of cybersecurity. And you now go to maybe a bit more advanced Computer Security Plus. But in that phase of where you got into this Computer Security Plus, I'll advise you to take your time to decide which area of cybersecurity you now want to go into. Do you want to go into the network security, such as firewall and router switches? Or do you want to go into SOC, that Security Operations Center, where you just monitor alerts and report to the next line to see how they can resolve this problem? At the back end of those guys, that's where you see the pen testers, the incident response managers, and the rest of them. That way, you are now beginning to have a clearer picture of what the cybersecurity space is all about. You have the GRC, which is the governance, risk, and compliance. There, anyone who works in the GRC helps to write policies. That's where we talk of governance. The risk. These are the people who identify risk for anything that is going to be done in a company. If we are going to set up a new data center, have we considered, is it viable? What are the risks pertaining owning a data center? If we want to have our own cloud facility on-prem or in the cloud, what is the risk involved? The applications we are currently running in the company, what are the risks of these current applications we are using? We might be using Windows 10 when everybody has moved to Windows 11. What is the risk involved? This is the function of the risk compliance officer. Then we talk about policies. We've talked about governance. We've talked about risk. We've talked about, we're not talking about policies. The policies themselves are the things that helps guide each and every person in the cybersecurity or in the IT space, including the owners of that company. If they are not guided by policies or guided by what they need to do, then everybody will be carrying out their own functions at their own pace. So when we have seen all these possibilities of different areas you can go into, it is good to first of all build the foundation. When you now see the area you are good in, you can pursue it and you will be able to gain what you need. All right. So the next question. Okay, I can see how can
Actually, we are running a bit low on time, so
okay, okay, okay. All right, let me just answer just one.
am I audible?
Huh? Okay, let me just answer one or two because they said, how can
Yeah,
improper
yeah.
role
Just I'll just
validation? Sorry, you were saying something?
yeah. You
Okay,
can continue with the last.
okay, okay. It's how can improper role validation lead to horizontal and vertical privilege escalation? Yes, definitely. Improper role validation when somebody has not been, when one has access to a system, they need proper validation. If someone can easily forge that particular access or gain authorization with that account, it's easy to either move vertically. Vertically means you are getting same privilege for another account to gain access into that account. But when you, I mean, that's horizontal. When you talk of vertical, that means you are escalating the privilege. When you have vertical privileges, you are going to gain more rights than the existing rights that that particular account has. And it is a very, very dangerous thing for anyone who has access to a system. And there are so many other questions, but I'm thankful for being on the program, and I'll always keep in touch with Prisandra and see how best to make sure that when next I come, we'll have something more interesting, more engaging, and very much more detailed. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
So that brings us to the end of our Q&A session.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, sir. We can hear you.
All right.
Yeah, so we would like to present you with a small token of gratitude as a gesture of our appreciation. We are truly grateful for the clarity, structure, approach, and practical insight shared with us today. So
All right.
before we
Thank
wrap
you.
up, we have shared a feedback form link in the YouTube video chat. Please take a few minutes to fill it out and share your thoughts. Your feedback helps us improve. Thank you so much.
Thank you once
All right.
again for joining us, sir. From understanding how attacks and yesterday to learning how vulnerabilities are identified, tested, and professionally reported today. This journey has given us a comprehensive perspective on modern application security.
Lastly, we would like to thank all of you for attending and enthusiastic audience. We hope today's hands-on workshop has not only strengthened your technical understanding of penetration testing, but also given you a clearer roadmap for building a career in cybersecurity. We look forward to seeing you in our next session. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. I can drop off right. Okay. I can I can leave now. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?